All right, before we wrap up here, I have one important question. Being from California, you live in Texas now.
Yeah.
In-N-Out or Whataburger?
In-N-Out. Hands
Good,
down.
easy.
Don't care.
Okay.
No,
Hands down.
Hands down. Always. It's so funny.
Obviously, we live in Texas now.
Yeah.
I still don't like Whataburger.
No.
I'm glad there's one in Dallas. I will drive to Dallas and get In-N-Out.
Yeah, absolutely. Whataburger is one of those things where it's like, do I have to? But it's the only place out there, and I'm hungry, and I'm on the road. I gotta eat, but I'm like, while I'm eating it. In-N-Out.
In-N-Out. Cool. All right, man.
All right.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Non-Standard Podcast. You ready, Tank? I am your host, Manny Lampson, and on this episode, man, I am super freaking excited because I get to chat with my man, Mike Glover, the founder of The Art of Rucking. We met originally just through TikTok with like interests. He is in the Army National Guard. He enlisted at 33 years old, so he had plenty of experience in his life before getting into the military. He fell in love with rucking, which most of you know, and if you haven't already followed me before, I love rucking. I'm passionate about it. I take it to the Air Force side. He takes it to the civilian side. We dive deep into why it's important, why leading by example is key, how to continue to always be learning. That is one of the big traits he loves, and so we talk a lot about always be learning. And we dive into his book, his manual, his passion for coaching and teaching people, especially on the civilian side, and why he continues to just stay busy and grinding all the time. So that being said, within a minute, let's get the show on the road. Again, if you like any of this, please like, save, follow, share. I'll drop his info in the show notes, and you can always follow me at Instagram, Manny Mustache. All right, let's go. What is up, everybody? We're back with another episode of the Non-Standard Podcast. I'm your host, Manny Lampson, like I mentioned in the intro, and I'm with no one other than the Art of Rucking that I've known him as since we just met today, Michael Glover. And what was cool about what we just talked about before is almost like we've known each other. Like we jumped on the call, we started talking, and we got the juices flowing. It was going, and it was cool. And I, watching you the past few years, reaching out to you now, I was like, man, this is going to be fun because we have, just like we talked about, we have similarities, but different worlds we're attacking them, but they will mesh. So without further ado, we will jump into the 3 H's. So if you listened before, I get these 3 H's to get the juices flowing, get to know people, hometown, heroes, and hardship. Yep. It's just a good leadership trait. If you're ever looking to meet somebody new and have a conversation, just throw it out there and get it going. Yep. So with that, the Art of Rucking, let's hear it.
All right. So 3 H's. I'm going to say for 2 heroes, I'm going to say my parents, both college graduates. They come from 2 different states. My dad is from Macon, Georgia, country boy. Whereas my mother is from California. So they met in college. My dad was the all-star athlete jock, whereas my mom was the really good schoolgirl. They met while in college. My dad kind of helped her with her studies while he played football. Was going to make a career in football with the Dallas Cowboys. He told me the reason why he didn't decide to train with them fully was because they didn't have his jersey ready for him or something like that. But anyway, he had my older brother in 1980, and then we just started popping out. You know what I mean? There's 6 of us all together. So those are my 2 heroes because just from starting from the bottom and then working our way up to like high middle class, from apartment with 6 kids, moving into like the ghetto of South Sacramento, dealing with that, getting out of there. My mother opening her own daycare, and making 6 figures, and my dad opening his own business as a construction worker. He had his own contracting company, and just seeing them from how they struggled with us, dealing with 6 kids, and then just progressing, and plus I admired my father's. My father can build things from the ground up. Like I've never seen anybody who can just build things from the ground up, from building houses from the ground up, because his contracting skills. And he was an athlete and an excellent fighter as well. So I admired his intelligence and his strength. My mother, her work ethic. Just, I've never, I know everybody talks about their mom like, they're the best moms in the world. I'm not going to go into that. But just, as an individual, she was just very good to us, and made sure she gave us the things that we needed, not wanted, but needed in our lives. So I would say those are my heroes, my parents.
I'll jump in there really quick. One, I'm from Northern California too. I don't know if we talked about that, but I grew up in Chico area, so up
Okay.
by
Close. I'm from
Chico
Sac.
and Butte.
Yep.
Yep. So definitely a little connection there.
Yeah.
Man, that's so cool with your parents, man. And like I see it, right? So like for you to venture out on your own and want to start your own thing,
Yeah.
it's cool because you saw it. Most people, especially in the business world, sometimes it's hard to do it. But like you've seen the struggles, you've seen the success, you've seen
Yep.
the hard work it takes, and for you just to get out there and do it, it makes a lot of sense. But it's also cool to see you still do it, right? Because some people could see their parents go through that and be like, "Oh, I never want to do that.
Yep.
I never want to struggle or start a business or have to go through that because that looks really hard."
Yeah.
Which it is, but for you to see it and still want to is pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yep. So, and then I'm going to say for the third H, which is hardship, I was homeless at one time. I was in my late 20s, roughly around 27, bad relationship. It was a 5-year relationship that ended pretty bad. I mean, we became rivals afterwards, and I didn't have a game plan. I didn't have no contingency plan, no anything. All my buddies that were in the military before, they always told me to have a contingency plan, right? But I didn't have one. Living in the Bay Area at that time, and I had to move out immediately because she was starting to see somebody else, But I moved in with a mentor. That didn't work out in the Bay. The job that I transferred to, that didn't work out. And I was homeless. Thank God my great auntie was living in that area, and I decided to move in with her because I was sleeping in my car. And going to work in the morning. No shower, no nothing.
Jeez.
I would just get up and go. Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was really bad. That was one of the that was rough. I'm not gonna lie to you. Anxiety attacks, depression, and if anybody knows about the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, it's pretty ruthless out there, wild and ruthless. And having your car stop on the Golden Gate Bridge and people honking at you, and it's yeah. I mean, I can go deeper into it, but I would probably say that was hardship. Having anxiety attacks, rushing to the ER, thinking I'm having a heart attack, but it's a panic attack. Getting MRIs done because I'm thinking I'm having a stroke. Because when your body goes through that amount of stress, all that adrenaline goes into the bloodstream, into the brain, and your body reacts to how it just wants to react. Arm goes numb, side of the face goes numb, and you're like, "Oh, I'm having a stroke." And you go to the ER, they're like, "No, your heart is fine." And then they try to give you meds, and you're like, you take it, and then you feel like a zombie, and then you're like, "I can't do this. I have to get out of this on my own." You know what I mean? I can go deeper into that if you want me to, because to be honest with you, it was my wife now who got me out of that situation. You see what I'm saying? So I met her on a dating app, right? And we met. She was living in Sacramento already, where I'm originally from. I was in the Bay at the time, living with my grand aunt. And anyway, she helped me move all my things from my aunt's house because I lost my job and everything at the time. You know what I mean? Because I was not right in my head, at all. And packed all my things and just moved in with her in Sacramento, and then the rest is history. That was pretty. Being homeless and sleeping in your car, you know what I mean, in the Bay Area is pretty rough. Yeah.
What happened next, man? So you move in. Obviously, you were in the military. You served, and I think I read it was a little bit later in your life, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So I moved back to Sacramento. I think back in 2000 and I think 11 or 12. I can't remember because I was 27 at the time. Moved in with my now wife in an apartment, big apartment actually. And then I decided to become a commercialized personal trainer.
Okay.
Yeah, at the gym, and started doing that. I loved it. I loved helping people, but then um, you find out like this isn't what I really wanted. I didn't want to do that anymore. And the reason why is because it wasn't about helping the clients. It was more so taking from the clients. You know what I mean? Even if they didn't have the resources, try to find a way to take the resources from them. So I said, forget that. I'll get my personal trainer certificate, and then I became a certified personal trainer. Outside, I quit and then started training people at the parks. Okay, and that's how I developed my whole philosophy. And this was the time when Instagram came out back in 2011 or 12, and people just started recording themselves working out at the park. But I was doing it during a time where it was considered narcissism, right? Because people weren't used to
Oh,
seeing that yet.
yeah. So they're just like,
Yeah.
oh, why does this guy record himself all the time?
Yes, it was not big quite yet. It wasn't big.
Yeah.
So I had a bad taste in my mouth at the commercial gyms. So I started working out back at home again, like I was started, because I started working out when I was 12, and so I already had that experience working inside the house, and then I would create workouts at the park, monkey bars, pull ups, all calisthenics. And I did that for a while, and then I got back into security because the job that I was working in the Bay Area was armed security. So I was arming Bank of America. I was a guard for Bank of America. So I didn't do that same job in Sacramento. I got into hospital security. My background is I've done every form of security you can think of, every form. Okay, from bodyguard, from federal, from club security, everything until I joined the military.
So why'd you join then?
So okay, so now I'm gonna backtrack.
Yeah.
The Navy. I wanted to join the Navy back when I was 19 years old, but my parents. I was still living with my parents, even though I'm an adult. They were like, they kind of scared me. Like, why do you want to join the Navy? The war's going on, because this was back in 2004.
Oh, yeah, that was big time, yeah.
War was heated. So you're gonna go and get your head blown off, and I was like, whatever. So I decided not to. So I was always in and out, and then I wanted to join the Army. Then I met my cousin in the Bay Area. He's a chief warrant officer at the time, and he was trying to get me in at, I think, 24. Took the ASVAB test, scored pretty well. I was gonna become an MP. But then my girlfriend at the time, the one that broke up, ended pretty bad. She was all like, I'm gonna be lonely, right, if you leave. So, I got into my feelings. It was like, nah, never mind, and then she ended up getting with somebody who was in the military, right, later on. It's crazy. But fast forwarding, now living in Sacramento with my girlfriend now, my wife, I kept talking to recruiters, Air Force recruiters, naval recruiters, like going back, Army. But I was working at the time. I still wanted to try to fulfill my dream and to become a police officer.
Okay.
So while I was working at security, trying to go into the military, I was still doing the police officer's test, written test, the physical test, passing them, and then going through backgrounds and then not getting selected because I don't know what reason why. One of my buddies told me I had a Jesus profile because I've never been in trouble before. So it's like, if you have a Jesus profile, then it tells the psychiatrist you haven't learned anything. You're too goody. Like it's really weird how they choose. Anyway, the military was something I've always wanted to do. If I would have never joined the military, I would have regretted it. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I joined. I finally decided to join at the age of 33. Okay, passed the ASVAB test, and they were like, "We're gonna put you in infantry." And I'm like, okay, this is back in 2019. Okay, so I'm still in. I'm in the National Guard now. I've been in for 5 years. They were like, yeah, we're gonna put you in infantry, but the thing is, it's not a 14. It's not a 14-week cycle anymore. It's a 22-week cycle now. Oh, and I'm just like, I don't care. I'm happy. I'm just getting into the military. I get to wear my uniform, the whole nine. You know what I mean? I'm just happy that I'm finally being able to go into the Army, and then plus the infantry, being a grunt. Foundation of the Army is infantry, right? Everybody's support. Without support, we wouldn't be able to do what we were able to do. Shipped out, I think of May 6th, something like that, in 2019, in Fort Benning. It's now called Fort Moore, right? And I was one of the oldest guys.
You're probably one of the oldest on the base, honestly.
yeah. I was older than my drill sergeants.
It's crazy.
When I went in, we back then we had Shark Attack. We had Shark Attack.
Mhm.
That's no more in the Army. I remember that day, and I packed too much. My A bags, my A and B bag were too heavy. So, having that over our head while they're smoking us and having us run in the rain, and then having to carry the A bag and B bag upstairs into our barracks, I thought I was like, and I was in shape. I was a personal trainer. Remember that.
Yeah.
But remember, there's so many levels of fitness. There's marathon fitness, there's CrossFit fitness, there's powerlifting fitness, and so forth, right? Bodybuilding, whatever. I was not Army fit, because Army fit, you have to carry weight and move with it. You get what I'm saying? Calisthenics, a lot of running, a lot of rucking. And that's what we did in that 22-week cycle, because we were the first 22-week cycle the Army had. So you're talking about guinea pigs. We were that.
Let's do this today. Okay, cool. Yeah. And you guys probably don't even know. You're just like, oh, this is just every day.
But we were that. We were that. But no regrets. No regrets. That's how. And mind you, I've been hiking many times, right? But rucking was something different. Rucking was that's where I discovered rucking, was during basic.
Okay.
If you didn't pack this ruck right, if you didn't set it up properly, you are going to be in some pain, right? But cut a long story short, that's where I learned about rucking. That's where I fell in love with rucking. Fell in love with the Army, and that's one of the main reasons why I developed the art of rucking.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But went through some hardships. There was a lot of times I wanted to give up during that 22-week cycle, because you're the oldest guy there. In your platoon, they make you the platoon sergeant, right? And you're in charge of children. You're in charge of children.
Yeah.
And they're looking up to you, like a mentor, like their father, their uncle, their older brother. I've been called Yoda. I've been called Master Splinter, because while the kids were in there, lollygagging or playing around, I was in my locker reading a book. You see what I mean? And just having that patience. It's just, counting down the days, only 5 weeks left. Oh my God, only 4 weeks left. Just counting down the days. One of my buddies during basic training, good buddy of mine, he's the one who kept me afloat, because there were so many times I wanted to give up. Not necessarily the physical. The physical, I adapted really fast. It was the mental. Being with these kids for 22 weeks. And it was just, can I do this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because there was probably so much more that you were doing extra. Like you talked about being the dad or the uncle that was draining you. Like they're probably coming to you with questions, or you're having to fix all these little things, and they don't care. So you're getting. I don't know if you said if there was 30 or whatever in your squad, but they're all probably coming to you before the sergeant or the drill instructor or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you're getting all that energy, and you're just like, bro.
Yes. And it's draining you.
Yeah.
And it's like when my drill sergeant, I was older than him. We loved him though. He was like, "You're the platoon sergeant, right? You know how you." I wasn't a platoon sergeant. In the Army they call the platoon sergeant the platoon daddy. I was literally that. PG. Like this kid's coming up to me. But it helped me with leadership skills.
Yeah.
It helped me develop really good leadership skills. So, that later on down the line, you learn to not group people. I deal with people individually.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At mentorship wise, you know what I'm saying? Leadership wise, yeah, too. But I look at leadership and mentorship as two different things. Yeah. Mentorship is more of a personal thing. Leadership is like, well, it's time to get the work and the job done. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I've been on both sides of that mentally draining kid and dad figure. So obviously when I enlisted, I was one of the youngest ones in my class. Going through tech school. And so we had the older guys in our class that were either cross trainees or went to college and came in, and they had a family and kids, and I didn't. And now I look back, I'm like, dang, I was probably doing that to them, what you just described. Like I would ask if I can go over to their house on the weekend, or ask them a bunch of questions. And but then now I look back at when I was a flight commander for my previous shop in AFE, being the older officer with airmen I got a lot of that draining, but they're learning though too because they don't know, right?
Yeah.
And this is where I wanted to tie in the concept of why in this generation, right? So
Yes.
you probably seen it. This generation is huge on, hey
Yes.
sir, why do I do
Why?
this? Why do I
I
do
agree.
that? Which
Yeah.
is super taxing, but you
Yes.
can't
Yeah.
say no because they're gonna crumble. If you just tell them just do it, they're gonna
Yeah.
crumble. It's just the way they are.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
it's also taxing on us because you have to leave that door open. And once a why floodgate is open, it doesn't close, man. Like they will ask why on anything,
Anything. Absolutely.
which
And
is
you.
fine.
Yeah.
But I wanted to teach them, like, hey, there's a time to do the job, and I will feed you the data after. I just need you to
Yeah.
get this done. The longer
Yes.
I tell you how or why it's getting done, it's not getting done.
Yes. Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. So the thing is that so we're the opposite. I went in the Army as an older guy.
Mhm.
You went in young. So we're opposite with that. The funny thing about that is going into the Army, entering into the military, the Army, as an older guy, you still have that old school mindset, getting
Yes.
the job done. Okay, I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to get the job done, right?
Yeah.
Different work ethic.
Mhm.
But you don't have the rank. I'm I enter after basic, after OSIT, one soldier unit training. Um, I get to Fort Hood, which is now called Fort Cavazos here in Killeen, Texas. I'm older than my platoon sergeant. Okay, so when I arrive, they're like, Why do we, oh, mind you, I skipped this. I turned 34 while in boot camp. Okay, so fast forward to Fort Cavazos. I arrive, reception, I arrive and everything. And they pick me up at the reception. And when they pick me up, they're like, How old are you? I'm like, 34. But thanks to having college, right?
Yeah.
I was able to go into the Army as a PFC, right?
Oh, I didn't know they did that on the enlisted side.
Mhm.
They increase your rank if you have college.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
the Air Force doesn't do that.
So if you're enlisted, the highest you'll get is as a specialist, right? But I went in as a PFC because I had my AA, right?
I didn't
Okay.
know. Okay.
So, yeah, because one of my buddies, he came back in because he was in the Marines. He came back into the Army, had to go through basic again. But since he had his bachelor's degree, he came in as a specialist.
Okay.
All right. So once I get to my unit, my PT score was around maybe it was 298 out of 300, right?
Oh,
So
wow.
I was one of the top PT scores in my basic training. And I come in, and my squad leader at the time, because I was with weapon squad, you have to be in weapon squad because in the Army, especially in the infantry platoon, you have 3 rifle squads, and that 4th squad is weapon squad. Weapon
Okay.
squad, you have to be the fittest in the platoon because it's heavy weapons, right? Okay. So I meet my squad leader, and they see, they asked about my age, but they were more concerned with my PT score. What's your PT score? Because that's the first thing they want to know in infantry. 298. How old are you? 34. Wait, what? Okay, we're gonna put him in weapon squad. You're gonna be a 240 gunner. Okay, of course they put the smallest guy as the heavy weapon guy, right? So okay, I'm cool with it, whatever, right? And when they get me, I was in first platoon. When they get me into their office, they close the door and they're like, so my commander, right? He's asking me, what made you join the army? What made you join the army? And what did you do before the army? And I was like, I was doing federal security. And they were like, did you have anyone under you? Like, were you in charge of supervisors? I was like, yes. And they thought it was CID. They thought it was CID from the Criminal Investigative Division. That's because they couldn't understand how is it that we have a 34-year-old as a PFC and his PT scores are 298. This is not right. Something's not right. Something isn't right here because we had another older guy that was in our troop, which is in a cavalry. You have regular infantry, then you have a cav unit. I was in a cav unit, like strikers and things like that. We call it troop, right? Squadrons. Whereas like in a regular infantry, a light unit is company, battalion, stuff like that. So in my troop, we had another guy who was from California like me, and I think I was 2 years older than him, but his PT score wasn't like mine. So they really thought like, okay, headquarters sent this guy here. He's
That's so
so
fun.
that's how I was treated. That's how I was treated while at my first duty station, and the struggles are real. I'm telling you, it was real. So but it built character. You know what I mean? It built character. Yeah. So I mean, if anything you want to know about that, like the struggles and like my how my first duty station was, I'll spill the beans.
I think we got plenty of good stuff to talk about here coming up.
So
because it is opening my eyes to what I see, right?
Yeah.
What I see following you is exactly what you're describing, which is really cool. Oh man, it's super fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just gonna jump straight into this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just. Oh man, I'm just gonna go some of my questions here. So
go ahead.
These are in no crazy order. They're just some notes I wrote down on what we could talk about.
Yeah.
I think we already hit my first one on the idea of starting a business. Obviously you have went into this world of entrepreneurship, which you've already done. It sounds like you were a personal trainer.
Yeah.
I think you were an entrepreneur before we started like calling everything an entrepreneur, right? Like you're a personalized trainer by yourself. You did that. So now that checks my question of, where did this art of rucking come from? And it sounds like you had the background, you have the passion, the niche. Now you just really connected them.
Yeah.
So that's really cool there. Oh man. We're going to dive straight into my leadership philosophies, just to get that going. That'll get this flowing. So for those who have not listened, I have created sort of my own leadership philosophy that if I were to go somewhere and someone wanted to see like how I were to lead or manage, I'd give them these 4 statements: lead by example in all you do, be selfish before you can be selfless, build relationships based off trust and care, challenge the road in front of you, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. So out of those 4, I'm just going to ask you, which one do you think you do real well, and which one do you think you need help on? Because it's always good for people to hear like what we struggle with, even though we usually talk about what we're good at. So what you got?
So, okay, so we got, let me tell you which ones I actually wrote down because I have it in my notes. We have always be learning. Yeah, always be learning. That's part of your philosophy, right?
It's one that it's not my top 4, but it's the 5th one where everybody always asks me like, hey, you should throw that in there because I love it and it's phenomenal. So let's talk about it. What do you love about it? Where did you see that in your life? Because you've done a lot so far. Talk about some of the points in your life where you saw always be learning and how you transition it now.
And so, entering into the Army as an older guy, going in at 33, it was a struggle. I'm telling you that right now. It was a struggle, because you have people that you're older than. You really have to leave your ego at the door, right?
Oh, dude, that's huge.
It's different. It's so different because now we have a rank structure here. They don't give a crap about your age. Listen, PFC, go to bed. And when you have your drill sergeant,
like, bro, I can put myself to bed.
So it just learning from basic, learning to keep your mouth shut, and just I don't know everything. Like having the experience and federal security, where you already learn how to clear rooms with a pistol, not with the M4. And then you have to set up a glass house while in basic training, and you're like, okay, let me swallow my pride and my ego, and let me learn from my drill sergeants, and you have prior service guys in there too. You know what I mean? Let me remain open minded because I don't know everything. It's hard for men because we strive on ego. Most men do, and
ego and emotions, the thing that'll
ego
crush
and
anybody.
Emotion. Yes, and it does. And so many times my ego was crushed. Shut up, Glover. Shut up, Glover. Stop talking. Because you think you know it all, but you don't. I'm new, so I'm new to the Army, but I wasn't new to life.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's kind of just like, okay, always have that mindset of always learning. Remain open minded because you're not gonna know everything. Even once we get older, in our 50s and 60s, we're still not gonna know everything. We're wise, but we don't know everything. So I think that always be learning. That was something huge, especially once I got into the Royal Army, because now rank is huge, because now these are people who can hold your future in the palm of their hands. They're the ones who, if Glover is mentioned during a brief, what about Glover? Are we going to send him to the board? And there are times where, like squad leaders stop my progress. I'm an NCO now in the Army, but that was once I got out of active duty. Coming into the Army as a PFC, right? You would think like, okay, your career is going to skyrocket, but no, there are people who. It's one of those things where you're trying to learn people, because I know for a fact, being older, there's pros and cons. I need to let them know. I need to always have the mindset of always learning, or have that pup mentality. You know what I mean? Like, but you couldn't win, because if you were too humble, they were like, "Why are you so happy?" Well, you're too happy to be in the infantry, right? Okay, so I'm like, okay, well then let me walk around with a frown on my face. Glover, why are you so mad? You have a bad attitude. That's why you're not going to the board. Okay, all right, then how do you guys want me to be? If you're the fittest, you're the oldest guy in your platoon, and you're the fittest guy in your platoon. Okay, when I first got to my platoon sergeant was like, I did 100 push-ups on my first PT test, and he was like, "You didn't do 100 push-ups?" I was like, "Yeah, sergeant, I did." You know what I mean? But there's competition. You get what I'm saying? And if it's one of those things where it's like, okay, where can I meet the neutral ground? How can I not outperform? Because there's a book. What is it called? 33 Secrets or something like that. And it's one of the laws, like the law book. I can't remember the name of it, but it's don't ever outshine your master. And a lot of people in my family who were in the military told me, like, hey, you may want to don't embarrass them, not to feed my ego, but I was in good shape. Yeah. But that's my ego got in the way of that, and that's what stopped my progress while in the Army. Whereas if I would have just always learning and listened to people with experience and just kind of stayed back, Roger Sergeant, yes Sergeant, and just did all of that, then I think my progression in the Army would have been a lot better. That's why I love always be learning. I don't know everything, period. Yeah. Even if we're the same age, but you outrank me. You've been in the Army, Air Force, sister companies, right? You learn. Always learn. That's how
I think we've and my opinion is the military doesn't do a good job keeping people in that mindset, because we focus so much on a specific AFSC or MLS to progress in your job or your career. Yes. So the military is very fixed mindset. If I were to use fixed or growth mindset, right?
Yes.
The military is fixed mindset. And the Air Force is worse at it, because as I've gotten to know a lot of and talk to Army people where you have those leaders, the Air Force doesn't. We get into a job as an enlisted person, and that's your duty, is that technical job. You progress based off that technical job. That is it. Like when I was over AFE, my aircrew flight equipment airmen had to know how to check the gear. That was it. I couldn't ask them to do anything more, because one, what are they getting out of it? If they're not getting rewarded for it, or it's not being shown, they're not going to do it, for one. I can't ask them to do more on PT, because they're not being rewarded for it now in the military for doing excellent or doing more on the PT. You don't even have to be rewarded. It's just not recognized as much anymore. I can't ask them to, and this is going to be huge, maintain a high standard of personal appearance, because, and this is probably the first time I'll probably say this, the Air Force has gone away from a standardized standard of joining a service to give up what you look like to match those around you, right? We are allowing ourselves to open up to allow more people, which is great, but we're losing the pride of the service. The reason I joined in 2006 was to give up some of my freedom to join a brotherhood and sisterhood that was more constrictive.
Yes.
A lot of companies are now and I will bring up the Boy Scouts for a perfect example right now. They're trying to increase their numbers by being more inclusive, but it's not going to help, because to grow, you need to be more controlled.
Absolutely.
People are going to go to things that are more controlled. The military is seeing the downfall of it. And I say military as the Air Force side. Obviously, other branches are starting to.
Yeah. Manny, so you hit it spot on. You hit it spot on. You're the epitome of what a airman is. You know what I mean? Clean cut, mustache is
Yeah.
boom, fit. You know, you're older, but you lead from the front. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it was harder for me because I've only been in the Army for 5 years,
Yeah.
right? So trying to get that mentality that you have, I have the same mentality. So we mesh in that. But the thing is I didn't have the rank to give my 2 cents
Yeah.
in. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So we're both adaptable. I get
Mhm.
where you're coming from. You know what I mean? And you're trying to change it because you're adapting to the new generation that's coming into the Air
Yeah.
Force. That's why you said the why. I get that. Why are we doing this? Why? Listen, soldier, I will tell you why. Just depending on my mood, I'll tell you that. The Army's different. Depending on my mood, I'll tell you right now why you're doing it, because it's going to help you have a better work ethic. This is why we're doing this. Why are we picking grass out of rocks? Have you ever thought about maybe it's to kind of keep you narrow in the mission, since we're always on our phones constantly? You know what I mean? Not getting sidetracked, to stay focused on the grass. Pick the grass. Everything's for a reason. And it keeps you focused and zeroed in. If you decide to get out of the military, zeroed in on that specific job that you want, that goal. That small piece of grass is a goal, right? And that's how I look at it. It's a philosophy. You get what I'm saying? So everything is for a reason. Getting up in the morning before we go to the field. Why do we have to get, like you said, the why? Why are we getting up at 3:30 in the morning? Well, have you ever tried to consider all the platoons have to get their weapons. All the platoons have to make sure we have our special items accounted for. Each platoon has a armor, right? That has a list of all the special items, their rifles, their weapons, whatever. They have to get that in order. That's why we wake up at 3:30 in the morning and we don't take off until 12 p.m. in the afternoon, because we have to get these things in order. We have to make sure the other squadron or the other troop, Dragon Troop, who are, what do you call them? Ammo. I forgot that MOS, but they focus on the ammo. We have to make sure we have all our ammo ready and it's there before we get there, before we get to the field, and before we go on a mission, or we have the ammo now and then we're going to the field. You get what I'm saying? It just depends, but we have to make sure everything's accounted for before we take off. So that why, that new generation coming in asking why, it's like, listen, okay, I'll tell you now. Or it's, if you don't get your butt in line and get your rifle, okay, it's about to be. Never mind, I'm gonna say that. But there's, everything has to be accounted for. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll tie in a couple other traits that you mentioned there. Attention to detail, right, is a huge one. So
Yes.
I didn't have all that until really like 3 or 4 years ago. Like I was one of those guys that was like, make my bed. That's dumb. Why do I gotta make my bed? I'm going to sleep in it at night. I'm gonna mess it up.
Yes.
Same thing is, I think there's a guy that says like change your socks, right, or you die or something like, or whatever. I'm like, why do you do that? That's dumb. Like that was me. And this is what I wanted to tie in. You have to be able to focus on yourself to focus on the big picture, just like you're talking about the small details of
Small
yourself.
details, yeah.
That'll open up everything else. And I tell a lot of people now, the reason I'm so big on personal appearance, physical fitness,
Yes.
because I was on the other side where I wasn't. So I can say that.
Yeah.
I can say I was the lazy guy. I was the guy that was like, hey, go get 100 on your PT test while I'm getting a 93. I was the guy that was being average just to get by. Now that I have dove into myself, put in 100 effort on myself every day for 3 years to become the best version of myself, I can now say, go get 100% on your PT test. And if they look at me, I'm like, I will go do 100% right now and challenge. They're gonna like, oh shit, I can't do. I couldn't say that before and feel good. I can say it without, like, some people are gonna call it cocky or arrogant or like it's because I live it.
You live it. You live it. You got it. It's the same thing. Like when I'm training my clients, most personal trainers, they just sitting there and giving orders. No, I'm training with you. Like we're doing this together. And I don't leave anybody from, in the rear. You know what I mean? If anything, I'll help them pick it up. If they fall out, I'm going back to go pick them up, to give them that confidence, leading from the front. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? There was a question I wanted to ask you too, because it was on one of your philosophies. It was leading from the rear.
Yeah. Yep.
What do you mean by that? I want
Yeah.
to know.
So this is, I say, one I'm good at, but it's bit me in the butt before.
Mhm.
Leading from the rear is a concept of, it applies to like newer leaders.
Yeah.
So a
Okay.
lot of times when there's like a new leader that comes in, they try to make change, they try to show their dominance per se, or their,
Oh,
so leading from the
okay.
rear is sitting back,
Getting back.
seeing what's
Yeah.
going on in the organization, where the weak links are, what's working well. So I use it in a rookie perspective, right?
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
I went and did the Nijmegen Ruck in the Netherlands with my team of 19 airmen,
Yeah.
I led from the rear. I was the last on every ruck because I
Yes.
could see my whole team in front of me.
Excellent.
They knew I wasn't going to fall out. But
Excellent.
I knew, I saw the guide on in front, so we had a guide on,
That makes
and I
sense.
knew where everybody was. I had my motivators in the front; they were setting the pace. I had my DJ behind them, so we had a guy with a DJ. I had
Yeah.
my chatty Cathy sort of group behind them; they were
Yeah.
chatty. Then I
Yeah.
had the guys that were struggling that I had to stay with because
If
I
they're
was
falling
leading from
back,
the rear.
yeah, that makes,
Um,
yeah, I like that.
that's
Because
like
you can't see your
that's
people
a
if you lead from the front.
physical perspective of it. When it comes to a non-physical one, it's I put it in the perspective of if I'm coming to take over a shop,
Yeah.
I will lead from the rear for the first like however much months to see what's going on. Maybe
Yes.
6 months, I'm not making any changes. I'm
Learning
working with my
people. Learning
superintendent.
people.
Listen, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm learning.
Yes.
And then I'll lead from the
I like
front
that.
with like implementing new ideas or moving things around because I've seen it.
You've seen it.
I know it works.
I like that. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's good.
Yep. Yeah. So let's talk about some rucking, man. Let's dive into it. We talked about this before.
Yes.
I love rucking. You love rucking. That's pretty rare to find people in the military that love rucking. You love it
Oh,
because you see the benefits of it. I love it because I see the Air Force needing it.
yeah.
You're teaching it to the civilian side.
Yeah.
What made you want to pursue rucking as your physical fitness coaching philosophy now, then going back into the personal training side and having that challenge of teaching rucking to people who have never heard of it before?
Manny, oh my goodness,
Well,
man.
still haven't heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So during basic training, during that 22-week cycle, the Army introduced the 22-week cycle, something called the Forge, right? Where we went to the what do you call it? The tower where we damn, I can't remember the tower, but it's where you propel from a rope and everything. That's what started off. We learned our pace count for like land navigation and things like that. That was kind of like similar. That's like kind of the first day or whatever. But it was something that was called the Forge, and I remember we didn't know what was going on. All we knew was that we had a packing list. This is what we had to pack. I remember, I'll tell you this too. One of my drill sergeants, who I was older than, but he loved me. He loved me. While we were packing our rucks in the bay, which is the barracks, there was a certain way I packed my ruck, and mind you, I just knew like, hey, our shoulders are stronger.
Yeah.
Let me try to get this rucksack high on my shoulders, right? So he came up. Everybody's at ease, relax, and he looked at my ruck, and he was like, "Everybody get their ruck like Glover. Everybody get their ruck like Glover." So I'm like, "Oh man, I didn't even know." You know what I mean? So everybody, so they asked me, "How do you get your ruck like that?" I said, "Well, I sat on it, right? I packed everything. We always pack the smaller stuff on the bottom, and then everything on top, the heavy, right? And there's straps on the side. You strap it up on the side, so everything can be distributed properly, close to your spine, contour to your spine. So I sat on it and equaled it out on bottom, and then I pulled the straps up, right, so it can sit very high on my shoulders. It's a technique that I made, but it's universal. I've seen other people do it too, right? It's crazy. So, okay, we go on our Forge. I think we did an 18-mile ruck with no food in our system. We only had a bar. The Army introduced the Army with this calcium vitamin D bar, right, for our bones, because I guess the new generation, their bones are so brittle or whatever. We grew up playing in the in the sand, rough, drinking water from the water hose and everything. So our immune system was different. Bones developed differently. So we do that. We do that for 4 days straight. For 4 days straight. Now, mind you, okay, we're doing a lot of rucking. We're doing a lot of stress shoots. We're doing a lot of ammo carry, pallet carries. we're doing events in between everything else. Learning how to apply first aid. What else? Shooting the 320. And rucking everywhere, just rucking. We rucked everywhere. All together in those 4 days, we rucked around maybe roughly 80 miles, right? And then when we got back to our base, we still had to do combative training in the sand. Okay. So during those 4 days, I learned that rucking builds character. So because you're dehydrated, all you have is water, right? No food in your system, and they want you to keep your hand on your rifle. You can't baby cradle your ruck. I mean, not your ruck, but your rifle, right?
Yeah.
You have to make sure you keep your hand on the handle, and your hand. You couldn't baby cradle. If you did, the drill sergeants would scream at you. So your hands are all numb and everything, and your mind is telling you to give up. Give up, just give up. Stop. People fell out, while they're falling out. You're telling yourself to keep going. So in rucking, you're in a staggered column, just depending on your platoon or whatever. And you're in a staggered column. A group on the left, a group on the right, and your platoon sergeant, your drill sergeant, is going to be in the middle. So while that's happening, the person, you're supposed to put the shortest person in the front of the rucking pack, because their stride is shorter. No, they put the tallest guy in our platoon, 6'5". I remember Zachary Fox, and his stride was very long. Okay, so I had somebody in front of me, shorter guy. He was about maybe 5 foot, and he kept running because the drill sergeants did not want the gap. They didn't want the gap. You have to close it. So I'm following him, and I'm running, and then I'm like, okay, you're wearing me out. So I had to follow somebody who was taller, who had that kind of similar stride. So I just kept my eyes on his feet and just followed his stride. But little do you know, that messed up my feet because I was overstriding. You see what I'm saying? So, and I was wearing the Army issued boots that were 2 sizes smaller. So my tendons were horrible at the end of those 4 days. So we're going to fast forward. And back in 2022 is when I developed, what do I want to call it? There's a shaving company called The Art of Shaving. And I love how shaving is an art, especially for like most African Americans. If you don't shave properly, you'll get those razor bumps. So there's a certain way you have to shave, right? Because I don't have any. So I'm like, man, what am I going to call this? Like, because I wanted to develop a company because I love rucking. And I did The Art of Rucking because I've never heard that before. So, okay, The Art of, and I just put rucking. And then I just developed a system because I knew from me being injured, and to this day, my tendons still hurt, that I need to help people and work people from the ground up, right? Knowing what type of socks to wear, how to prep your feet, with the type of boots to wear, how to tie your boots, all that stuff. Because rucking, without your feet in the Army or just in any military, you can't do anything. But that's how I developed the art of rucking. It was from my experience. I don't want to see any other soldier out there that suffered from what I suffered from. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. And just in the Army, the stigma of rucking. Whenever you bring up rucking, I mean, it's just,
I love doing videos on my TikTok of just like, hey, I had a great ruck today. And I get all these comments from these people in the Army.
Manny, yo, just constant, I'll never ruck again. Okay, I get it. That's fine. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's you. But if you just if you went on my website and you just checked out my philosophy on rucking and why I do it and how I developed civilians into rucking.
Yeah, that's what I love. Yeah, that's so cool.
Then you will understand, because yes, it's for civilians, but it's also for veterans who miss rucking, soldiers who are in the Army now who love rucking and just want to have that morale boost, right? Civilians who've never been introduced to rucking, they end up loving it. You know what I mean?
No, a lot of people really love it. I say a lot, but you should love rucking overall because of its benefits. Yes. When we say a lot of people, everybody should love rucking
Yeah.
because it's just overall a great thing to do.
And Manny, the thing is the way whenever I talk to my clients that they're new to the gym,
Mm-hmm.
I tell them, what did you used to do back in kindergarten? What did you carry on your back? Oh, a
Yeah.
backpack. So I tell them, we've been rucking. You've been rucking,
Yeah.
just in urban terrain. That's it. But no one taught you properly how to pull the straps up and put it high on your shoulders. That's why you have lower back pain. How to condense and distribute the weight properly in your backpack. You get what I'm saying? So, yeah, the backpack and the rucksack is going to be made completely different, right? But if you think about it, we've all been rucking ever since.
Yeah.
We all have. And we all have been since biblical days or before
Yeah,
that.
if you think of guy like old cavemen having to tie a random pack or animal hide, right, into a stack,
Yes.
carry things.
So the way that I look at rucking, especially when I'm speaking to civilians, I'm just bringing them back to their instinct.
Yeah, I like that. I like how that's a good way to bring it in. Yeah,
it is, right? It's like this is something we've always done.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it'll help you. God forbid if something ever happens.
Yeah.
EMP attack. Are you prepared to ruck up and move?
Mm-hmm.
I teach my clients this. This is very important. A lot of us, service members have an advantage on that, especially the ones who ruck.
Yeah.
That are in really good shape. That know how to shoot, move, and communicate. That's what we're taught in the infantry. I can't give them completely that mindset, but just giving them the thought of, you may have to shoot, move, and communicate. What if your kid, did you give them a packing list? You know what I mean? Soon I'll we do other things too, but it's the art of rucking. It's rucking. You're going to be rucking. I will soon give you a packing list, and we will do a layout before we go on a ruck. And if you don't
I did see a couple of those that you do. And I love how you bring in, and we talked about this before, not just throw on a pack and move, but the benefits of how to pack a pack. What can you pack in a pack? And one thing I love that you talk about, which is hard for civilians to hear, is are you going to be an asset or a liability? It's a hard thing to say to people, but they have to understand little things that they can do in their life can make them an asset in a stressful situation. I'm not even talking about in the world. I'm talking about, let's say you have a kid and they hurt their foot and you have to carry them to your car. Some parents can't even do that.
Yep.
Like if I were to go out with my son right now, who's about 70 pounds dead weight and a snake, right?
Yes.
And he were to get hurt or something were to happen, I know I could carry him however far I need to. Can somebody listening right now, or can my neighbor, who I know probably can't, and they have kids, like it, and it's a hard truth to tell people on how to relay it, but that's when it's going to matter. Like it's, they don't realize that like the rucks they're doing right now aren't for maybe their health and wellness. It's for the people around them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's huge because you just never know, especially with today's climate, with today's society, what's going on. We don't know.
That's why,
something may pop up. We don't know yet, right? And trying to prep them and get them into that mindset. They're like, I never really thought about that, but that makes a lot of sense. Are you conditioned enough to carry your son, to put him on, to carry him, do you have the medications that, you need, your wife needs, or maybe your children need? Are you able to shoot, move, and communicate? Are you able to move with weight, period, point blank, And I incorporate that mindset into my clients. You know what I mean?
Nice.
Especially when we're rucking.
Yeah.
We do everything else. We do HIIT training. We do traditional weight training.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have sessions that are kind of similar to like kind of CrossFit, because I used to do CrossFit back in the day, and everything that I learned from the age of 12 to now being 38 is what I incorporate into my business, but just include a lot of the rucking. You know what I mean? And the way that I train my clients pretty much is they come, they warm up, they see the workout list on the whiteboard, but then I always let them know, listen, I might throw some things in there, okay, because that's what life does, right? You don't know when life is going to throw a curveball at you. So that's how I train my clients. I train my clients and I train my soldiers as well. You know, you don't know what life is going to throw at you. So you have to be ready. So if you're, you know, the way that I'm going to train you is you're going to, when you're not here with me, if you're in the car in traffic, it's just unexpected. You know, instead of stressing out and screaming, you're going to be like, okay, I remember my training, remain calm, because things are always being thrown at. I throw things at them every day they come to my gym. And I think that's just the right mentality to have. You know, things can be going really smooth, and all of a sudden I'll just be like, go run to the pole. You know, go do this, do that. You know what I mean? So it's constant thinking. It's the way that the drill sergeants had us think back in basic. Is never get too comfortable.
You can't be comfortable. No.
Can't never get too comfortable.
No.
You know what I mean? You always got to have something in your subconscious mind that something may happen. I'm not trying to be the what do you call it, the party pooper here, but you know, it's how can I put it? Not negative. It's some people will call it a negative mindset, but I just think it's being prepped and being ready.
Yeah.
And that's what the Army taught me. You know what I mean? And that is how I developed my leadership skills, you know, through that. And then from life experience, the military, and now, you know, having a gym and then helping, you know, because I teach my clients this and my soldiers at the same time, you know, so.
Yeah. I'll throw in sort of the relationship with the Air Force and rucking, right? So for those listening who don't know, the Air Force we don't ruck. I could give a pack to an airman and they would not know what to do with it. But that's why I've loved introducing rucking to, I say the Air Force doesn't ruck, but some jobs do, like TAC PC or PJ. Those jobs, like I grew up rucking when I was enlisted. I didn't like it back then, so it was part of my job. I hated it. But now I've seen the growth it's had in airmen who have never, not rucked, but walked for more than 2 hours. Like I've walked with an airman who she never walked. I can't remember how long we walked. It was long, man. It was like 5 hours. Yeah. When we got done, and she was like, Manny, I've never done anything that long in my life. And she called, I think she said she was about to call her mom. And like, that's what I love. And even if it's the same airman I get every day, every Saturday morning when I do my rucks, the airmen that I've seen in this program that we have at Dias do this are excelling in their workplace. And I've seen it. See? One of my airmen won Maintenance Airman of the Year. I have another airman. He's an NCO who's won the Cy John Award for a squadron twice.
It keeps them focused.
I have an Army guy who's a recruiter here. He just won like one of the highest Army recruiters in Texas. Yeah, because he found this community. He's been crushing it. I look at myself, right, as like as an example of that too. Yeah. And they don't see it because they're doing it, but I see it. And one of the things I wanted to hit is the reason I love rucking, and you hit it earlier, is the mental side of it. Yeah. It is not physically hard. Yeah. It's not.
It's mental.
It's mental.
It's mental.
You tell somebody we're going to move for 3 to 4 hours.
There you go.
Their mind's already like, I'm done.
I'm done. But you see what, you know, like it keeps them zeroed in on and focused on that specific goal. Right. Yeah. And it helps them. What's the right word, man? They stop procrastinating. Like I said, they're more focusing and zeroed in on the task at hand, because you're like, okay, we're gonna do a 12-mile ruck. Man, how long is that gonna be? Just get it done. Yeah, you know what I mean. So, and that translates, or that transfers into their personal life or their career. Mm-hmm. And people don't understand the bit. It's not a sell pitch. It's what it does for people, not just physically, but mentally, what rucking does for civilians or just people in the military in general.
For me, it's been the mental aspect, hands down.
The mental aspect.
I use rucking or my long duration exercise as my therapy.
Yes.
I will plan out my week. I will have conversations with myself, right, on it if I'm worried about something. Obviously, I'm learning. I listen to podcasts, plenty of podcasts when I walk. Yeah. Because that's what's great about rucking too. You can learn when you ruck. And there's nothing more mentally challenging than being like, just take one step. Just
Yeah.
take one step.
Just take
Or the mental aspect of I could stop whenever I want. That is
That's
also
true.
a very hard
That is true.
mental, like just to be like, I'm done because
Yeah.
nobody's telling me to ruck
Yeah.
when we do it for a workout or something.
Mhm.
And that's why it's just a huge mental thing because it literally is just one step after the
It is. It is. It's one step at a time. Like, embrace the suck. That's my motto.
Mhm.
Start rucking,
Yeah.
embrace the suck.
Yeah.
We're all embracing the suck together. You know what I mean?
And that's what's great
why
too.
it
Like you
builds
said,
morale.
everybody's embracing it with you.
Yes.
Rucking is the same for everybody. Like working out can be different, right? I could be lifting a different weight. I can be at
Yeah.
a different tempo. I could be different volume.
Yeah.
Rucking is not like that. You put 35 pounds on my back. I put 35 pounds on your
My
back.
bad. Yep.
We're both embracing
The suck
35
at
pounds.
the same time. Yes. They don't. People. It's like what we're trying to do here is trying to because there's like in a specific, especially in the Army, like the bitterness. There's a lot of soldiers out there that are just so bitter. Like, hey man, I'm sorry your leadership didn't train you properly on how to ruck. You know what I mean? That's not my fault. But what I'm trying to do is help. Help people with people who are suffering from post traumatic stress.
Yeah.
People who miss the morale of the military and want to be around that community. It's a community. That's what Go Ruck is doing. You know what I mean?
There's a reason it's so successful because I think about 80% of Go Ruck are veterans.
Yes, they are.
Because they miss it.
They miss it. They miss it. You know what I mean? And some people, not necessarily, they don't miss the actual conventional rucksack. I think some people, since they're a civilian now, they're like, oh, this backpack is and it's so simple. Just put a little, a metal plate in there and you're golden. You're golden. Well, I'm a bit different. I like to show the foundations of rucking and showing people, giving people, because for me, okay, it relates to what might really happen in real life, a real life scenario where you have to be able to roll up clothing, and distribute that weight properly and how to pack it. Where am I going to pack it at? Where can I put this? Where can I put that? Where can I put my kids' medicine? Where can I put their shots where it's not going to stick me? How do I pack this? How do I pack my boots, my running shoes, my water? Water weight compare. Am I going to add this in my ruck, or am I going to get a water source and add it on outside of my ruck? There's so many methods, and that's the beauty of the art of rucking. That's what I'm showing to people. It's like, there's one way, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but we're all embracing the suck together. It may sound corny, but I mean, this shit is real. You know what I mean? It really is. You know what I'm saying? So, and we're showing people that and the benefits of it. Most airmen don't ruck.
No.
You're the first one to show people how to ruck in the Air Force. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Point blank.
Let's talk about because you could have been fine with just starting the art of rucking as like a coaching side, but you took a step further and you decided to do the manual, right? So talk about that. I want to know where that came from because I love it. Like you said, you're adding that art to it.
Yes. So the way that the book came up was I did a podcast with one of my buddies, and then another person who was part of that podcast, who did a podcast with the podcaster, his name is Ken Schaefer, who was now
that was the guy,
yes, who is now my my business partner. And he was like, hey, I like what you're doing, because he rucks before. He's older gentleman. He was in the Army before, and he already had developed a plan for rucking as well. He loves rucking as well. And his company is mostly on like human sexuality, erectile dysfunction, and men with low testosterone levels. It's very important for us men to have healthy testosterone levels. So he already has a book out. So he has that. I was gonna lone wolf it. I was gonna lone wolf it and then just do collaboration videos with people like you and just kind of grow. But he has the experience of being an author. So he was like, let's get something together. Let's get a field manual together and make something. I was like, okay, well, let me make sure I can trust you first. You know what I mean? So, while I was in the academy, I think you tried to reach me in the academy too, right? Mm-hmm. I was busy in the academy, the police academy. And we, after I was done with the academy, we reached out to with each other again, and we developed a plan on like how can we make a book on rucking but not be too boring, right? Because a lot of people think it's just so simple, right? You just put on, which it is, you put on a backpack and you just go. Fine, right? But there's other things that are incorporated with that as well. Remember I told you the right shoes you wear,
Yep.
boots,
Yeah.
clothing.
Which is the art, like.
Yeah, but it's the art part, how to pack your rug, how to modify your rug. Some people like Alice packs. Some people I like the Alice pack, but I like the Molly 2 frame. And I like the Molly 2 frames stomach pouch, the stomach, you know what I mean? So we put our minds together and we developed like a diet. Like what's a good diet, right? Not necessarily for rucking, but just to be in a shape. So we included that in the manual.
Okay.
Like how to start off rucking, how to build your ruck, how to modify your ruck. How can you introduce it to civilians? Is it for civilians? Is it just for veterans? Is it just for people who are in the service? No. So this is a good way to bring back the morale of veterans who want to start rucking again, civilians who never heard of rucking and want to ruck. So it's like I said, I think I look at myself as the prerequisites of people who've never rucked and want to go into basic combat training, people who want to do go ruck events, things like that. And in this book here, right, this is the manual for that. The philosophy or philosophy of rucking, and what the book shows like we actually spilled our heart in this book and the love of rucking. You get what I'm saying? It's not just like we said in our videos before. We read other rucking books and we read the reviews, and a lot of people didn't like those other books because it was short, right? Just 140 pages long, and then it's just mostly they're talking about their experience of rucking. Yes, the book is about our experience of rucking, but it is a guide on how to start rucking.
Yeah.
Not necessarily how to pass SFAS, because most people want rucking tips on how can I pass special operations selections, and it's like, well, I'm in a special operations unit, but I'm support for SF. You get what I'm saying? Do I train with them? Yes. Are they badasses? Absolutely. But do I consider myself great? No, I'm not. I'm not. I just fell in love with rucking, and you will see that in this book. And we developed it for civilians and anybody who just wants to start rucking.
That's cool. I love it because in a day and age where we're worried about our personal growth, our finances, our business progress, you could have not done the book and had everybody come to you for rucking stuff. But instead, you sort of take a gamble and go, I'm going to provide you guys the tools where maybe you don't need me, but I know how passionate I'm about it, and I want you to be passionate about it. So I think that's a huge ego check for you to like, hey, I'm going to leave my ego out the door where I want as many people to love rucking as much as me, but I don't want them to have to come to me because that's ego, right?
Absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah. And you have no idea, because living in a military town and you hear so many negative comments about rucking, how much they hate rucking, how much it hurts them, and blah blah blah. This, you're not going to make it or whatever. So you get discouraged, right? But things happen for a reason. I'm happy I met my business partner Ken Schaefer, and he kind of put that spunk back into my life. And then the book, I'm not trying to become a millionaire off this book. This is good for getting it out there. You get what I'm saying? And that was the whole purpose. Is what? Like, for example, you know who Rich Froning is, right?
Yeah.
People talk so much crap about him doing CrossFit, but did that stop him from winning, from being the best? No, he did not care. And he still does it to this day, hardcore. That's the mindset that I want to have. Like, this is a passion for rucking. Like, this is period. I don't care. Listen, I get it. You're bitter, or you were injured, your leadership was bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm showing people the right way. And I love it, dude. Man, like to see civilians with a smile on their face.
That's cool.
While rucking, and they've never done it before.
No,
you live in a military town and you never heard of rucking. That is insane. And
or I work with military people who have never heard of rucking.
Who never heard of rucking. That is insane. So, I think like me and you, some people may say we sound corny. but it's the passion. It's 100% authentic passion on what we have and what we do. Especially with you wanting to, you've adapted to the new generation coming in.
Yeah.
Like you said, the why. Why are we doing this? Okay, well, I'm not going to get anything done if I stick with the old Air Force way. I'm not going to get anything done if I stick with the old Army way, right? Whereas, was I in during the old Army back in 03? I could have came in 03, right? When the war was was at its peak, but I didn't. It's the mentality that I have. I have that old school mentality, being an older millennial. I'm an older millennial that entered into a new generation.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what do I do? Because I can't hang out with my platoon sergeant or the NCOs because even though they're younger than me, right? But it's a structure. I get it perfectly fine. But at the same time, I can't hang out with these young guys. They're going to get me in trouble. So what did I do every day? I went to work, worked out, and went straight home. That's all I could do.
You know, one of the things I'll tie in really quick was when you talked about, oh my God, I can't believe John Blake on this is going to bug me. Shoot. One of the ways I help answer the why is I do.
Oh, yeah. So you mean
leading by example is the easiest way to answer the why.
Yes.
So when I'm answering their why, I will go and do the thing. So they will go do it.
Yes.
Now there are times, right, in some careers or as a supervisor or leader, I can't physically do the job they're doing.
Yeah.
But if I am working in other areas of my life, leading in that area without talking or asking why, they see it and go, dang, man, he's getting some pretty good results. What's he doing? He's just doing it. He's not asking why a lot. Okay, maybe I should try that.
Doing it.
So I will let them ask me why. But in return, I'm going to go do.
Yeah.
They can choose next time either to go do right away and then ask why. And I bet you they'll still get the same results, if not better. Because we do learn through actions, right?
Old school
you will
mentality.
learn the why going through the action. Just like you talked about with the sand or the grass and the rocks. You will learn the why by picking the grass and the rocks. Instead of asking before why I'm doing this. You may see it 5 years down the road, but that's life. You're never going to know the answer right away because you're not supposed to. You'll see it a couple years or 10 years or a month or a day later.
That's why we did that.
Yeah. I'm just going to throw that out there for our book, man, The Art of Rucking. I got to get it still. I will get it. I will read it. I will share it. I will get all the data from you after this. We'll throw it in the show notes as well. So that's the book for everybody today is The Art of Rucking. I'm excited. And one of the reasons, and I'll just reiterate again why I'm excited, because he didn't have to do this. Right. He didn't have to create this book. He could have just been like, hey, if you want to learn how to ruck, come to me. But no, he is providing this tool for everybody to learn about it, become passionate about it. So if they want to go do a go ruck or join the military or find that community, they don't need to find Glover. They can find The Art of Rucking and then find that passion.
Yes. Yep. And our goal, we are right now we're talking about, we do plan on making more field manuals, right? We're thinking about, we're already coming up with the idea of field manual 2, right? Nice. But we're also trying to open up other affiliates. Like my partner, he's in Massachusetts. He's going to open up one in Massachusetts. His son is going to open up one in San Antonio.
Nice.
You see what I'm saying?
If you ever need somebody to come down and just have some fun.
Exactly. And that's the whole point. My goal is to have veterans come, be a guest, and then you explain, like, this is how I pack my ruck, and this is why I did it. And then you show them other pointers on, well, you can pack it this way too. You see what I'm saying? Like things like that. You see what I'm saying? Or just open up another affiliate. You see what I'm saying? So that's where I want. That's what I want the Art of Rucking to go. Like, our goal from the get-go is to mainstream rucking. Period. Like go ruck, they use it in cross, but people still don't know what rucking is.
Yeah.
They still don't know. Even
they think of go ruck more as like an exercise per se.
Yeah.
Not like an actual, what we've talked about, form of just everything.
Yep. So that's the goal, but one step at a time. Like you said, one step at a time. Simple.
Nice. So just to wrap up, for those listening right now, what's one of the easiest ways for them to reach out to you? You can say it here and then I'll add it in the show notes. But if they want to reach out to you right after this episode, where could they go?
You can go on my IG. It's theartofrucking.com. Oh, sorry, The Art of Rucking. That's my IG. You can go on theartofrucking.com and then you can message me through there where it says contact. And then there's also, I have my email on there. I have my TikTok, The Art of Rucking. I will respond. If they text me, if they DM me on IG, I'll respond. I'm not one of those guys that read people's comments and then, not respond, thinking I'm too cool for school. No, I'll respond. But IG, The Art of Rucking, TikTok, The Art of Rucking, and my email is theartofrucking@gmail.com. And then theartofrucking.com is the website. And you go to contact. If you leave a message, it goes straight to my email, or just my cell phone's on there too. Give me a text. I'm very easy and very simple to get a hold of.
Nice. Love it, man. I'm excited. Thank you. Honestly, thank you. Because just like you guys from the beginning, we have never talked before. Just a little bit through social media. I just reached out to him, and like you said, he's easy. I think we set this up in like 3 days, maybe 4. I think I hit you up earlier this week.
You did, yeah.
Got it, and we were ready to roll, and you took the time. I appreciate it, man. Well, with that being said, we'll pause it here. We'll land the plane. We'll get on with our day. Mike, just down for a little bit. We'll let it download. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.